Welcome to the Explainer. I am so incredibly glad you're here today because we're diving straight into something absolutely crucial for speaking English naturally, the simple past tense of the verb to be. You know, it's kind of like learning to use a time machine. No plutonium required, I promise. We're going to take this step by step so that by the end of our time together, you'll feel completely confident talking about the past. Let's get right into it.
Okay, here's our game plan for today. First, present versus past time. Second, the rules for was and were. Third, making sentences negative. Fourth, asking questions. And finally, some real-world practice.
All right, section 1, present versus past time. To really understand the past tense, we first have to recognize that we're talking about a closed chapter. As you can see, the simple past describes finished events that happened at a definite time in the past, or the state of things at a particular point in time. The absolute key word I want you to remember here is finished. If an action happened and is totally over and done with, boom, it belongs right here in the simple past tense. Let's look at this shift in action. On the left side, we've got Jill is a businesswoman now. That uses the present simple verb is. But check out the shift on the right. She was a student in 1985. We just changed the verb from is to was, and we added a definite time, the year 1985. It's a completely finished state. She's not a student anymore. When we say definite time, we literally mean fixed points on a timeline just like this. Think of years like 1918, 1964, 1969, 1985, or 1994. All these specific years represent definite, locked-in times in the past. They're like anchors leading right up to our present moment, now. So when we use the simple past, we are essentially just pointing back to one of those specific, finished anchors. Make sense? Moving on to section 2, rules for was and were. Okay, so now that we know exactly when to use the past tense, let's look at our actual time-traveling tools. In the simple past, the verb to be morphs into just two tiny words, was or were. The whole trick is just matching them up correctly. Your verb changes entirely based on the subject pronoun you use. If your subject is I, he, she, or it, you use was. For example, he was a student. But, and here's the flip side, if your subject is plural or the second person, like you, we, or they, you've got to use were, like we were students. It's a strict rule of matching, but once you practice it, it becomes second nature. Let's actually read through some of these affirmative statements together. Listen closely for the verbs and those past time markers. He was a doctor for 40 years. She was a Broadway star in the 1960s. We were at the library yesterday. There was a party last night. Do you notice how words like yesterday, last night, and the 1960s immediately tell us the action is completely finished? That's our exact cue to perfectly match was or were to our subjects.
Section 3, making sentences negative. So we've covered how to say what did happen, right? But what about what didn't happen? Well, it's actually incredibly straightforward. Here is your golden rule for making past tense sentences negative. You literally just drop the word not right after was or were. That's the whole shebang. One little word completely flips the meaning of your sentence.
Now, if you're writing a formal essay, you're definitely going to use was not and were not. But let's be real, in spoken English, native speakers mash these words together all the time into shorter forms. Was not squeezes down into wasn't, and were not turns into weren't. Actually, getting comfortable with these contractions is a total game changer for making your spoken English sound supernatural and fluent. Let's see those negative examples in action. He was not a teacher in 2004. Or, using our handy contraction, he wasn't a teacher in 2004. Look at the second one. They were not at the park yesterday. Or, they weren't at the park yesterday. Notice exactly where it goes. The word not just slides right in there immediately after was and were. Section 4, asking yes or no questions. So what if we want to play detective and investigate the past? We need to know how to ask questions. Watch this physical shift happen. It's pretty cool. Step 1, you start with a normal statement. Say, he was in India. Step 2, you literally just swap the subject and the verb to be. The word he and the word was trade places. So the statement, he was in India, instantly flips to the yes or no question, was he in India? Listen to how my voice actually changes when I read these out loud. Was he in India? Were they late for school? Do you hear that slight upward inflection at the end of the sentence? By swapping the subject and the verb and just raising the pitch of our voice slightly at the very end, We are giving the listener a crystal clear signal that we're asking a question. Finally, Section 5, real-world practice. Because, let's be honest, all the theory in the world doesn't mean a thing unless you can actually use it. Let's check out this email from Annie. It sounds like she had a pretty eventful weekend. Listen closely for our target words. How are you? I was in Los Angeles on the weekend. I was at Manhattan Beach. Do you know it? It was very hot and there were lots of people there. There are many cafes there too. I was in a cafe called Ocean View and Malcolm was there. He was with a woman called Stacy. Okay, quick check for understanding. Based on what we just read, is this statement true or false? Annie was in Los Angeles on the weekend. Think about it for a sec. If you guess true, you hit the nail on the head. Her email started right off the bat stating, I was in Los Angeles on the weekend. All right, here's your next check. True or false? It was cold there. Try to recall the details. Yep, this one is false. The text actually used our past tense verb to say the exact opposite, remember? She wrote, it was very hot. Let's do one last reading question. True or false? Her friend Malcolm was with another man. If you remember the end of her email and that little bit of juicy gossip, this is false. She specifically noted he was with a woman called Stacy. Awesome job tracking those past tense details. You know what's really brilliant about this whole framework? It functions exactly like a set of building blocks. Check out these 4 columns: pronoun, verb, noun, and time. You can literally mix and match these categories to build your very own perfect past tense sentences. I matches with was, a noun phrase like a student, and a time like last year. Put it together, I was a student last year. Or they were good friends in 2008. It completely gives you the power to instantly generate your own language. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I have a little challenge just for you. Using the pattern we just walked through, what is a correct past tense sentence you can create about your own life using was or were? Think about it. Where were you last year? What were you doing? Come up with an answer, say it out loud, and make it your own. Keep practicing those time-traveling tools, and I will see you in the next explainer.